How to describe a museum? To be honest, I rarely pay a visit to museum because both history and museum are not my passion, and that's why for this topic I nearly don't have any clue for it. But anyway, I think I will give it the best shot. And no need to say, both museum and history are beneficial things for everyone that they wanna learn about the past, or maybe they wanna know about the histories of numerous issues that Vietnamese people in former days had to face with. And I have to say, this is a place that whenever I recall museum, it's always the first thing swing to mind, and it's called Hỏa Lò Museum. And the other name of it is Hỏa Lò Prison Museum because actually it was a prison, and it was built by the French in 1896. And of course, it's located in the heart of the Hanoi city. And I have to say, through the trip go to Hỏa Lò Museum, I could learn tons of things that I didn't have chance to learn before, because through the tourist guide goods I can comprehend about the sacrifice they that the ancestors did in the past, and also I can see through the hardship that Vietnamese people bear with, and like tons of people died at that time because they was hard tortured. And based on my memories, most of it was demolished in nearly 2000, and now just only part of it is still intact, and tons of people every year still go there to know about the history like me that I did in the past. Do people in the country enjoy visiting historical places? Like I said before, because I don't have any special liking for history and historical places, so that's why I paid no attention for it. So I guess just the the elderly people pay a visit here to enjoy the view, and like they can bring their children to go there because they want their children to gain a deeper insight into the history, and also to arouse their interest related to it. And of course, young people nowadays just have a propensity for the modern things, like they like to visit some unique places or some high-rise building with tons of amenities like the coffee shop or maybe shopping mall and the like. And I think young people just go there whenever they have some assignments related to history. How important is it to protect historical places? I have to say, the we must to protect historical places because those things are the crucial thing for every country, because through the historical places reflect and have people remind about the history in the past, and through the exhibits and the pictures people can know about the hardship, and know, and like they can feel that how brave their ancestors were in the past to against the invaders. And so through the things people can arouse their wish to make a contribution to society in the future. And besides, the government can benefit a lot from those places because like I think historical places bring positive impact to the economic growth, like people can it like the, those places can attention draw tons of people's attention to it because of the breathtaking views like the Red Cap Lake or and that the ancestor built in the past, or maybe the majestic historical events or figures in which are displayed in the museum. How can people protect their local historical places? You know, I think the first thing and the most important things is that people need to raise their awareness of the significance of the protection of historical places, because whenever people pay a visit here they need to follow the rules it or they have to look up to the traditions or maybe the customs instead of making jokes with their friends. And you can obviously see those behaviors whenever in children, because they pretty young and like whenever they see something that is bizarre or weird they tend to take photos to laugh at it, or maybe they can mock about the things or maybe the people that they used it in the past. Why why do many children these days dislike museum? you know to explain about it, we have tons of reasons, and the first one is the strict rules of the museum, because whenever the children pay a visit here they just can look and walk around, and they are not allowed to touch to the exhibits or many the other thing and something like that. And besides they just can hear the automatic voice of the speaker to learn about history. And those ways to learn about history are very monotonous, and of course by nature children just are children and they learn everything by touching and interacting with those things instead of just look at it. Because I believe that if people can have chance to interact with the exhibits they can have long-term memories to know about history, and of course they can have more they can feel interested in history. And besides we all know that the nowadays with the development of technology devices, people tons of people and of course children just wanna have their eyes glued to a screen to see tons of videos videos or maybe play games instead. Why should be in charge of preserving our historical buildings? Do you think our historical buildings should be owned and controlled by the government and the private organizations? I have to say nowadays the government and tons of the organizations are shouldering the responsibility to protect and to preserve those buildings, because they have many great plans to attract tons of tourists every year and to upgrade the buildings well. And especially the the status quo ở Việt Nam, we had to face with the outbreak of COVID-19. So tons of people and of course the owner of the building are struggling with the finance because they are not allowed to be opened. So that's why it can be hard for them to continue to operating the museum and these other buildings. And somehow I think the government and of course tons of organizations can easily find the support to restore the historical buildings because time flies, tons of things can be old, then they need to rebuild to avoid falling into disuse or maybe being forgettable. What factors should be considered when a modern building is constructed? You know, whenever people start to erect a modern building, there are tons of criteria to maneuver about it, and the first one is the intended use because the building need to meet the demands instead of wasting resources like money, labors or time as well. And besides they need to consider about the outer decoration because a great appearance can have the owner raise the building's value because it can attract the people's awareness, and of course they can pay a visit more often to discover about the buildings. And with the magnificent outlook, it can be a special symbol of the city or the place which is where they was placed. And like for example in Hanoi we have the Lotte Tower, which is the symbol of the city. About the modern building, should we ask for the locals' opinions before constructing a modern building? Of course, no need to say because tons of buildings are has been built to serve to the locals, like the cinema, the shopping mall, tons of buildings like that. And of course, they will be the first one use the buildings for letting off steam or maybe having having meaningful time with their friends, their relatives, and the like. And asking for the locals' opinions are crucial because the government need to know about the demands of their inhabitants, like what they need or what they don't, instead of just building new things without purpose. And of course we can waste money for it. And besides I think the local have their own perk to know about the buildings which is gonna build is which is gonna be built in the future. Which is more important, preserving old buildings or building new ones? Without a doubt I have to say both of those buildings are vital and they have their merits because the old buildings was the great witness to have people know about the things happened in the past. And of course it is the way thing to have people reflect about the context in former days that the ancestors had to face with. And through those things people can learn and know about the history of the country